This Ballooncast episode has been taken from an article written by Andrea Olson. Andrea is a behavioral scientist expert on customer centricity. The title is, What Beer and Cycling Can Teach You About Customer Needs. Levels, Intermediate up. I was at a brewery around 9 p.m. when a group of cyclists rolled up. There were around 7 of them, of varying ages ranging from their early 30s to late 40s. It was a beautiful, slightly cool Thursday evening with a light and comfortable breeze. They parked their bicycles, dumped their gear, and proceeded to order multiple pints. Clustering around a single small table with additional chairs pulled up next to it, they proceeded to have an animated discussion for the next hour or so. Some of them I recognized and knew had spouses and young children. While this wasn't odd, it was remarkable. I had seen this happen hundreds of times before over many years. Yet today it stood out. I was with my husband and had already considered it getting late, being a work night. We were wrapping up and they were just starting. I was impressed. This clearly wasn't their first stop. They'd been at it for a few hours. I recall that I had seen social media posts of cyclist friends on bridges at midnight. This clearly wasn't an anomaly. Was this because it was the coolest point of the day? Maybe. But these guys have responsibilities. They're not particularly young and not single. Then my husband said something that changed my perspective. He said, and I quote, "They're out because this is the perfect time to get away from the house. Dinner's already done and the kids are already prepped for bed. This is the window they all share. No one has to take a day off or plan a ride. It works for all of them," unquote. This was the observation I hadn't seen. I'd never considered this reason for their behavior. It was actually quite brilliant. My husband's observation opened up a new way of thinking about this group of guys and the context which shaped their behaviors. Given the context my husband described, it made complete sense. And this is the key to customer innovation: understanding context and behaviors. Consider if you were a bicycle manufacturer. You might look at the variety of customers you serve, from casual cyclists to competitive riders. You might design bicycles with features to address each group's needs. But this group of guys was a unique slice. A group that clearly was serious about cycling, but wasn't training for a competition at that moment. They were using cycling as a getaway from the family in the evenings. This context opens up a host of new approaches to serving their needs and creating new innovations that competing bicycle manufacturers likely hadn't considered. Instead of focusing on common product features, it opens up an opportunity for offerings that address this specific context. For example, a simple app providing them the option of setting up routes based on cycling and drinking time would enable them to map out a route that would get them to specific stops and ensure they were back home when they needed to be. Adding a route sharing component would eliminate group texting and provide easy transparency to a central meeting point. While this example is rudimentary, the point is that understanding your customer's needs begins with context. This discovery didn't require a series of surveys or deep dive studies. It required a beer. It required observing and understanding customer behavior within a context. It required having someone else at the table who could look at the context through a different lens. And customer innovation can be that simple. It just requires you to get to know your customers beyond the superficial functions and application of your product and start looking at the why.